There's Cyndi. I kind of see the top of your head. Hi, everyone. My name is Theresa. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be sober because of a loving God. Man, we've been with each other now. What? It's like, oh my goodness, time is going by so fast. We're already on step 11. And I've been having a great time. I'm like a kid in a candy store where I have all my favorite women, have an opportunity to share with them every week. There she is. I can see her, Cyndi. I am so excited. I've been telling everybody I feel like Oprah Masterclass. I've been feeling every week. And so I'm excited to share with you, Cyndi, who, again, what I find the continuity of all the women, when I gave Ali my list of favorite women in AA, is this sense of authenticity, humility, do or die, kind of like in AA. You know what I mean? Like we do this thing no matter what. I've witnessed Cyndi do a whole lot of no matter what, heard about them. I hope to grow up to be just like her, a sense of strength, determination, resilience, and dedication to this program of recovery. And I think what I love the most about you, Cyndi, is you just are, right? And that you teach me to just be, right? And the only thing that I have to consistently do is don't kill myself, somebody else, and don't drink. And then everything else is a caveat. So without further ado, I am so excited, you guys. You're going to hear Cyndi, and then I'll come on in. So please introduce yourself and give us your sobriety date and go for it. Step 11, Cyndi.
Thanks, Theresa. My name's Cyndi Masters, and I'm an alcoholic. And because of the grace of God, some simple actions in this program and both sides of sponsorship, I've been sober every single day in a row since December the 17th, 1985. That's my miracle. Theresa, I've loved you since the first time I met you, and that's not going to change and sure hasn't. And I appreciate being here with you. Glad I'm going first. Ali, Ali's my COVID gift. And, there used to be a movie, it was way old, called Desert Hearts. And there's a line in that movie that said, it's like he reached into my heart and strung a string of Christmas lights around it. And that's what I feel like every time I walk into the room with Ali. It's like my heart just got strung with a bunch of Christmas lights. And there's something that happens when you have that spiritual connection and you know that somebody else is doing their best to listen as well. Because that's really what I think 11th step is really about. It's about getting removed enough from my ego that I can have a deeper level of listening with God. And so, I've got 30 minutes to talk about this. And I guess my one caveat would be that it's pretty important to be successful with step 11, that you work the first 9 and then that you dance with 10, 11, and 12. In other words, I didn't think that they can be siloed. I think 10, 11, and 12, you do all that prep work in the first 9 steps to give you a foundation to then, just like dancing, when you do the waltz, you just get better and better and better as you move through. But it really is a 3-step dance in 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. And step 11, the great thing about this and all the steps is that I never get there. I just never get there. And I'm so grateful for that, because I get more than I was yesterday. I get a better understanding than yesterday, and I learn more about God and God's intention for me. But I never get there, and I never master this step. And for somebody like me who likes to master things and win and conquer, to have an acceptance that I don't ever get there is terrific for me. It's very weird to see everybody popping into the room. It's like woo, woo, woo. So anyway, it's let me see if I can. I'm going to put the gallery on. I don't have to see all those little buttons coming in. So there we go. I don't really like to look at me anyway. So the two things that I really like there's all these promises in step 11. And one is like, what's the thing that begins to happen if we really try to execute step 11? Well, we begin to experience emotional balance. You know, everybody wants to talk about balance, and the 12 and 12 talks about, you know, that this is where we begin to have some experience with emotional balance. And luckily that too is a journey. I keep saying that too is a journey, and I'll just, I had a really tough day at work today, and just a really tough day. And it's a high class problem, but you know, I had an employee that just lied to me, and it cost me thousands of dollars, and I lost my temper a little bit. And that's why I say continue to grow, and that we continue to get better. I was so blindsided. Is my most trusted employee, and it hurt my heart, and it's easier for me to get a little bit mad than to let my heart be hurt and to be disappointed. Now, I've already called and completely cleaned up my side of the street. This happened at 5 o'clock when I found out. It's 8:40. So between 5 and probably 7:30, I cleaned up my part, which was the way that I reacted. And that's a 10th step thing. And without that, I wouldn't be very good tonight, you know. But I didn't apologize for a thing I said. I apologize for the way in which I said it, you know, when it's, this is part of life. And I'll go to bed tonight, and I will, before I go to bed, I'm going to write about this one. I'm going to inventory these questions that it asks us in the 11th step. So I'm going to tell you just what I'm going to do with this step today, instead of how I've done it historically, and instead of telling you how great I know it and all the fabulous things that it's done for me, which is the part that I love to talk about, because people cheer and say, oh, you're spiritual. Well, you know, this may not be as spiritual, but this is true. And this is real, and this is where I am today. And if anything else, if nothing else, may I please give you permission to be human. And when you're human, you don't have to put a gun in your mouth or a drink. I had a friend at 24 years sober put a gun in his mouth last week, going to meetings, because he had a secret. He had a secret. And he couldn't separate from his ego enough. And how do I know that? Because in his letter, his very intentional suicide, in his very intentional letter, he said, please protect my reputation. And it hurt me to my toes, because what is that but ego? You know, my reputation and what you think of me is more important than who I am. And so for me, all of this is a mastery of separation from my ego, which allows me to be closer to God and to you. And so that's what I'm trying to do right now by telling you my truth about today. It's not to do a fifth step with you, but it's to say that I've got to separate from my ego just a little bit more. And then I got to look at, where was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do I owe an apology? Tonight I will say, no, I don't, because I already made it. You know, because I did step 10, lucky me. And then they'll say, have I kept something to myself which should be discussed with another person at once? Apparently not, because I discussed it with a whole lot of other persons right here, right now. Hello. And I got to tell you, for me, this kind of transparency publicly, I'm not doing a fist step, but this kind of transparency and authenticity is critical to me being able to stay sober longer. You know, I'm 35 years sober, and one of the most dangerous things that happens is that we get in these ideals of who we have to be at certain places in recovery. We box ourselves in, and then anytime we fall short with our humanity, you know, it's like that's, you know, that we're in deep trouble. But by doing this, it makes it easier the next time I need to do this, the next time that you see that I'm just a human being. Because that's the glass ceiling that I learned when I was about 17 years sober, that as high as we ever get in Alcoholics Anonymous is human. You know, I never get better than anybody. I never know more than anybody. I just have more experiences because I've been doing it longer with how to drink than a lot of people, not everybody for sure. So what could I have done better? Boy, am I going to have a long list for that today. Boy, am I going to have a long list. I could have taken a deep, deep breath, you know? Was I thinking of myself most of the time? And today I can say, not really. I was in that moment, but most of the day, I was really thoughtful of all the people around me. You see, that's the other thing that's really important, because it says this in a minute. It says, it's very important that I don't drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection when I'm going through this. Because see, when my ego's attached and I need to be perfect and I get into this, then when I've been less than perfect, I just want to knock the heck out of myself. And that diminishes my usefulness to you and others. It makes me less than what God would have me be. Most of the day I was worried about what I could bring to the stream of life. I really was. And most of my days I am. And then I have to ask for God's forgiveness. And once I ask for God's forgiveness, mine comes easier. But for me, I got to do that out loud. I got to say, God, please forgive me. Because I think I hurt one of his kids a little bit. Now, I didn't do some terrible damage, but I think I hurt one of his kids' feelings. And so that's what I'm asking to be forgiven from. And then, you know, what do I need to do? What do I need to do tomorrow to line this up? Now in the morning, this morning, I'll tell you how my day started. I did my flute, you guys. I woke up and I've got a little meditation corner in the front of my yard, and I got another one in the backyard. I got meditation corners everywhere because I need places that make my energy come to here so I can breathe. And so I go out and I'm listening to the birds, and I've got a little fountain, and I took up Native American flute in COVID, and I played it for maybe 30 minutes this morning. And I'm learning how to play this drone flute too, which is 2 flutes at once. And it's just really hard and wonderful. And all of my energy has to be on breath. And so what that does for me, because when I go to be still, my energy is here. And what happens is, it's just, I'm thinking about too many things. But when I play that flute, my breath comes here, my energy comes here, and now all I'm thinking about is God. All I'm thinking about is God. Then I open this part of my chest up, and for me, like my listening device, and I believe that every one of us has a perfect listening device that's connected to God. And so I have to do all that so that this gets opened up so that my listening device can hear, you know, what would God have me do with my day, you know, and, you know, what is God's will for my day. And I do the prayers that are in here, and I often do the 3rd step prayer before I do anything else. And then I ask for God to remove all of me, you know, so that I can think straight, just like it talks about in here. You know, I do those things. But for me, the most important thing is, can I be still? And can I be still without a goal? See, I used to try to meditate, but I was goal driven. I wanted to get to that place, you know, that place, that elevated place. Most of the time I was disappointed because I was so goal driven. And so today I have no goals for me. This is just my experience. And so what my morning meditation looks like is, can I get to here so that I can hear God? It's a big deal for an A+ personality like myself to not have an agenda for my day. It's a big deal for somebody like me to not have an agenda for myself and my spiritual growth and what it's going to look like today. And where exactly is it that Cyndi Masters needs to grow today? And what are the spiritual goals? And for me to really be spiritual connected, I need no goals. My goal is to serve God. My goal is to hear God. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have any life goals. I do. I have lots of life goals, too many. And they're a big distraction to my relationship with God. But here is where this time is just for God. This is me and God spending time together. Now, I love the 12 and 12 every bit as much as the big book. And I know that that's controversial in some circles, but just call me that. One of the things that I love about the 12 and 12 is where it talks about, and this poor little book is just falling apart. It talks about the need for prayer and meditation. It says prayer alone is great. I'm not even going to turn the page. It says prayer alone is great. And then it says meditation is too. But the two combined, that's where the real magic happens. And it talks about needing to meditate so that that channel clears up. It says it a little differently, so that I can listen to God, so that I can take things to God. And when I take things to God, it says only for his will, right? Only for his will and the power to carry it out. So when I take things to God, I'm not taking requests to God. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But for me, I don't. What I take to God is, here's something I don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with this. Because if I already know what needs to happen with it, or you know, or my sick mom, where is there room for God's will? There's no room for God's will if I already know what the outcome should be. Should it be good? Should it be right? So for me to be and open enough that I can hear and trust God. You know, in the second step, we believe in God. In the third step, we begin to learn to trust God. And in the 11th step, I have to live trusting God. And that's a challenge. And that's, again, part of that dance and part of that practice and part of learning. And, you know, do I really trust that what God has in mind is better than what I have in mind? And if I don't, am I willing to act like I do? You know, it's like, you know, when people are dying and people are sick and people won't act right, do I believe that in God's world it's all as it should be? My discipline is to take action so that I can believe that and act as though that is true. And by acting as though that is true, it becomes true for me. You know, it's that whole thing, even here, probably more than anywhere else, I can't think my way into spirituality. It's not here. My spirituality is by removing my intellect, removing my ego, and being able to behave in a way that lets me experience spirituality, which is why those disciplines of the bookends of my day are so critical. You know, if I don't do that, if I didn't check in the morning, and I'm not talking about in the shower prayer, that's the most ineffective thing I could ever do. It's me checking the box with God. Now, I mean, I check the box at work. I check the box with my driver's license. But Lord, am I going to check the box with God? No, no, no. See, I want a relationship with God. And all relationships take an investment of time. Because I want God to invest in me, and I'm willing to invest in God. I do the same when I sponsor someone. I'm not one of those people that sponsor 100 women. I do not. Because I cannot be effective in the way that I believe that I need to be effective, because I do the same thing with the women that I sponsor that I do with God. I give them time and I am present. I am present. I am available. You know, I make a commitment. I spend time, but I need to do the same thing with God. And I read all the books. This is one of the places Allie and I connected, because I have all the books. I'm looking over here. I've got all the books. I got all the Oxford books, the Washingtonian books. I got all the different kinds of religious books. I got it all. And because I'm a seeker, I'm a seeker. I'm not a knower, I'm a seeker. But I never found the answer in any of the books. I didn't find the answer. I found truths in those books. I found reminders in those books, but I only find the answer in that still time with God. When I have removed enough of myself and my ego to be able to hear and be present with God. Now, alcoholism is a disease of shame, which is why those secrets are so dangerous. And the problem with that is that, see, if I start keeping a secret from you, I'm going to think I can keep it from God too. And I'm not going to go in the morning because I'm going to be ashamed of myself because I have something I'm too ashamed about to even let you know. And so I'm going to be pretty sure God's going to be disappointed in me because I'm already feeling ashamed. And then I'm going to shortchange that time with God. And that's what's most likely to get me drunk or dead. It's the secret and the unwillingness to be transparent in all of my relationships. And so for me, and don't know how this works for everybody else, but for me, if I will tell you, it's the opposite of what some people say. Somehow in you telling me that I'm still acceptable for human consumption, it's easier for me to go to God. Like it's easier for me to come to some trusted people and then God, where some people, I think it's easier to go to God first. For me, if I'm hiding from you, I'm probably going to hide from God. It's weird, the whole dance and how it all works. I have fallen in love with God all over through COVID. Because COVID, the gift it gave me an amount of time that I had not experienced since when I had a wreck and everything was taken from me and I knew what mattered. See, when everything gets taken from me, I always know what matters. When I wound up on food stamps and Social Security disability, sober, with no hope of working again, that time with God wasn't a problem at all. Time with you, making you and God my priority. And when I was new, the same thing. See, I had nothing to lose, so it was easy to have the right priority. And in COVID, I was reminded of that. And I mean, some days I spent hours just being still and listening to God. And for me, I'm in a place in my recovery and I'm in a place in my relationship with God that when I do that, the way that it feels to me is I get surrounded in this, it's just this perfect peace. And I am rarely at peace during the day. I'm rarely at peace because life is busy and I own all these businesses and I do all these things. But when I get myself to where I'm really present with God, there's nothing but peace. It happened when I had my wreck too. I had my wreck. I got drove over by a car. I'm laying on the highway dying. And it was the same feeling. I just felt loved. I felt loved and cared for and at ease. And I don't think for most alcoholics that we know a lot about being at ease, in our skin. And so today, my motivation is selfish for investing the time. I'm investing the time in the morning because I want to feel at ease. And if I feel at ease and I really ask God to bring his will and what he would have me be and do during the day into my life and into my day, it is less likely that I will be reactive. It is more likely I will have a pause when I get upset. It is more likely I will catch it close. Doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. Clearly, today I was not. But it means I have a better shot. And I have a better shot of cleaning it up. I don't know how many new people are here, but whether you're new or whether you're old, if you're new, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're old, remember how much shame you felt just walking in a room, being so afraid what people were going to think about you, need them to like you because we just weren't good enough, because just somehow we had to be worthy of the air that we breathe, right? No peace and comfort. And today I have a lot of peace and comfort, but I only keep it if I do this. And then if I do 12 and give it away, try to practice these principles, and see how this is 10, 11, and 12 all combined. Like if you pause and take care of it, cool. And if you don't pause and take care of it, you do your inventory at night, right? It's like, you know, and if you don't start out in the morning with God, for me, it's a pretty hopeless day. When I do spend the kind of time I'm spending with God right now, I don't get as obsessed with worldly clamors. Where am I going to retire? How will there be enough? You know, what if my parents, whatever, you know, I don't get it. I get to just be where my hands and feet are. And there is never any problem with where my hands and feet are. Where my hands and feet are is always perfect. No matter how tragic everything around me is. If I can't just be where my hands and feet are and feel like God's holding my hand, everything is okay and I can breathe. I think my time is up. Now you get to hear a really good speaker. So we're going to give you Theresa. Theresa, I love you. Allie, thanks for asking me. For those of you that keep hearing me, thank you for keeping hearing me, especially on days like today when I'm certainly off the beam. I love you all.
Thank you. We just heard it. Also speaking you funny. I wanted the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, that happens to me each time I hear somebody afterwards. I'm like, oh man, I thought I knew that step. But the other thing is, as I listen, I always listen for similarities, and I begin to think and identify and relate. And I like it when my insides are like, I'm like, yes. And so I really just want to say ditto, 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 ditto. Okay, now to questions. Because everything that you shared is my experience as well. That the opportunity that I have in 11 is to cultivate. So it's an invitation to cultivate a relationship with this newfound power. You know, this whole thing is about obtaining, maintaining, right? This relationship. And how do I do this? Well, when I came to you broken, lost and confused, didn't even know I was powerless over alcoholism. I just knew that I couldn't get drunk and I couldn't get sober. You laid these tools at my feet. And you said that you found the solution and that it was outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I applied this solution that you found, I was going to tap into a power greater than me. And it hasn't lied to me yet. So you ever heard that saying, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? So here I come and I begin to admit, and I learn about alcoholism, and then I discover that the root of my trouble is selfish and self-centeredness. Driven by 100 forms of fear, I've been operating on self-will run riot. I'm completely undisciplined. My perception is distorted, and I need a realignment, right? I'm just off. I didn't even know I was off. As a matter of fact, I thought everybody in the world was off, not me, right? You left it up to me. You guys are all screwed. I'm the one that has all the answers. And I discovered that it was the other way around. You give me hints along the way before I came to 11 Alcoholics Anonymous. I love this program. It's just very subtle, the way it kind of holds my hand through this process with the breadcrumbs, because you gave me a hint earlier on when you said deep down inside, and every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. So you invited me to stop looking outside of myself and then now start looking inside. But in order to go inward, I have to get rid of the garbage, and you give me another hint, that has me blocked from the sunlight of the spirit. But the sunlight of the spirit is not coming from the sunlight in the sky. is coming from the authenticity, the spirit, the genuine God self from within. And so you give me the shovel and the pick, right? And it comes in the form of a pen and paper. And I begin to take stock. And I go back to no good business could hardly be a success. So for those of us who have worked, if you start a business and everything is shiny and new and you open up the doors, and if you don't keep reevaluating what needs to be cleaned, you know what I mean? What needs to be changed, what works, what doesn't work. That's why we have surveys, right? That you go on and on, right? How do we keep a business going? Is through constant reevaluation, evaluating and assessing, and then putting forth the product that we've concluded is the best of quality. And so that's how I see this process of let's get rid of what's blocking me. Remember, my sponsor would always say to me, we're going to get to your authentic self. So really, am I turning into a new person, or am I getting rid of all the things that kept me from really who I've always been? With the pompous self-judgment attitudes of righteousness through the years of where I began to be clouded by the trees, right? By my opinions and perceptions and ideas started kind of like tainting that self. And the 12 steps begins to dismantle all of my illusions, all of my distorted perceptions, my untruths, these narratives that I held on to for the sake of holding on to it. Everything that I used to give weight to my ego, all of the higher powers I discovered that I relied on, whether it's the God of reason, alcohol, drugs, relationships, money, job titles. I didn't even know, but I discovered I've been outside of myself all along. And this entire journey is about going in. And you give me the map in order to obtain that. And now that I've gone in, right, I'm cleaning house. I tell on myself. I tell somebody. I look at these defects of character and I discover they're not working. Oh my God, what a revelation, right? I thought they were all working, and I discovered I never seemed to win. I was under the illusion that I was winning, but really I wasn't. And I started hating myself, and I turned into my own assassin, right? And so now I discovered that these things I've been relying on aren't working. And all I have to do now is ask this newfound power to remove them. What a concept. Sounds too simple. All I have to say is remove them. The reason why this power that I discovered here is far more infinite is because I tried every imaginable remedy to remove them, and they didn't. But all I got to do with the infinite power is say, please remove it, and it gets removed. I don't know about y'all, but that just fascinated me. I was like, really? Okay, that's what makes God God, because all I have to say is remove it. And it's like a magician. It's like a magic trick. Poof, right? And so here, I've been trying to remove it, and I haven't been successful. And so now I want to keep this business going. I'm no longer the CEO of Theresa Incorporated. I love how Cyndi said it. I have to have a relationship. It's interesting that I'm willing to spend a lot of time and energy with people that I want to have a relationship with. But when it comes to this concept of idea of a higher power and God, for some reason, I only want to give it a minute, maybe. And so I'm building a relationship. I'm seeking to do that. And as I've cleaned house, my perception is also going to change. It's going to change the way I see religious things, religious doctrines, different views. I'm seeing the world differently. My glasses are changing. My lenses are changing. It tells me in 10, I've now entered the world of spirit. I can look the man in the face. Why? I've cleaned house. I've done 9. I went and made amends, and I've cleaned up the wreckage of my past. But then 10 tells me that I have to keep doing it. Why do I have to keep doing that? Because one inventory is not sufficient. When I came to you, I was 24 years old. I had 24 years of resentment, fears, and sex conduct. One sitting is not sufficient. More and more will be revealed, right? And then I'm going to keep learning about new things. And so what I want to do is go, well, look, if I had the promises came true to me at 9, Could you imagine what happens if I keep cleaning house? Could you imagine what's going to happen when I now start having this dialogue with this power? My goodness. And if 9 did what it did for me when I had less than a year, that was my thing. It's only going to get better. So I need to cultivate that relationship. And here's the invitation that it brings me in 11 is to start taking responsibility for cultivating, maintaining the relationship with the power that I've now discovered. Here's the other thing. And I was just talking to my sponsor about this last night. Don't hear about it much, but it's in the big book a lot. Intuition, inspirational thought, and intuition. This is what I was talking to about her last night. This is what she was saying to me. All I know is we hear words around here like, do the footwork, leave the results up to God. Let go and let God, right? Live and let live. Trust in God. Put one hand in God and one hand in this program. We have a lot of slogans that tell me about this relationship with God. Clean house, trust in God. We just don't sit around and do nothing and wait for God to do it, right? We do what's in front of us. And then we ask God to remove anything that blocks us, and then we train ourselves to be helpful to others. It says, when I pray, I'm very mindful that I don't pray for myself, but I pray for others. Well, what's been happening to me? What's going on with me at this point? I am now being disciplined by a power. I was undisciplined. We let God discipline us in the simple way we have laid out. So I become disciplined with tapping into this infinite power so I can have what? An intuitive thought. An inspirational thought. I love the way Cyndi laid that out so I can hear. I've been listening to the rhetoric in my head. I've been listening to the rhetoric and the judgments and the opinions about the worldly clamors all around me. I'm now going to learn how to cultivate listening from within. If we want to know if there's a secret, maybe that's the secret. I'm no longer relying on the God of reason. So I no longer have to sit around going, I got to figure out my life. The way Cyndi was, right? This is what I got to do. This is my plan. This is how I'm going to make my plan. This is how I'm going to organize my plan. I don't have to do that anymore. What I get to do is go, all right, God, let's talk. Let's talk. Because you know I don't know. Every time I think I know, it don't really work out. It may work out for a little bit, but in the end, it don't really work out. Like I do in any other relationship. I'm cultivating. How do I get to know you? Who are you? It tells me I'm just starting this relationship. You guys have been on dates and stuff. Don't you ask a lot of questions? Well, what movies do you like? Well, where do you go? And da-da-da-da. Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you have children? Do you want to get married? Like some people be like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Like in the very first date, like relax. Like this is what we do to cultivate relationships. We start asking questions. So this is an opportunity in 11 for me to start asking questions. Who are you really? Why aren't you feeding all the hungry people in the world? I think y'all think I'm crazy, but I'm serious. That's a question I had issues about this concept of God earlier on. You know why I was bothered about you? Because I saw people starving and homeless and you didn't fix it. So I didn't think you were there. I was suffering and being abused and I didn't know where you were. But they told me that you're a new power I'm going to learn. So I have some questions. Well, how else am I supposed to get the answers? I need to be quiet. I want to listen. I want to start learning how to listen. You know that saying used to be like the little birdie? You ever heard people say, I heard a little birdie tell me? We say things like, you know, that voice, that first voice, like follow your first mind, right? I hear something tell me, don't do that. And then I do it. And I'm like, damn, I knew I should have got those keys. You know what I mean? Grab your keys. But I didn't listen. Do you know what I mean? That never happened to you? Get your keys. And I don't do it. And then I leave the house and be like, I did heard something say, get your keys. That is the voice through prayer and meditation that I'm cultivating. Interesting. I'm learning how to cultivate, knowing, becoming familiar with that voice. Most people believe meditation is a state of no sound. Really what it is, it's allowing all of the noise to play itself out until it becomes one note. I'm like shifting through all the noise. So I have to learn through practice to get used to doing that enough that after a while, all that noise will become one sound and I will be able to finally hear that voice. So that I could do what? So I could know the next indication when I'm living life. And that voice is coming from a selfless place. That voice is the God of all gods. Remember that saying? I mean, it's a religious saying, I am who I am. You know what I mean? That voice that is all creation, of all things, of all oneness. Most people get caught up with, I want to know God's will and self-will. Well, I try to keep it simple. Anything that only talks about me and that's going to serve me is self-will. Anything that talks about we and us is God's will. That's kind of how I keep it simple. Right? When I'm driven by self, I'm only thinking about me. And when I'm thinking about in God's will, God, I'm going to be revealed to me how I can be useful, purposeful, what I can contribute to life. What are some of the things I need to remove? In the morning and the night is a review with God of saying, well, where do you think I've been selfish? Show me. Where am I dishonest? You know, stuff pops up. I may see faces. I'll see a situation. There are some things that are secret to me. I don't remember walking around every day being fully aware of things that I'm doing. When I'm in it, I'm in it. And I start asking God, show me. Show me what blocks me from you. That's what I did in the previous steps. Show me. Where am I being dishonest? I'm having a candid, transparent, humble dialogue with this newfound power. And I want to be able to hear it when it says something. I want to be able to hear it when everybody else is talking. I want to be able to hear it when my ego is screaming at me. I want to be able to hear it when my own ideas want to dominate it. I want to be able to trust it. That when I hear go left, I go left. Not why would I go left? What's the reason I'm going to go left? What's going on? What's, you know what I mean? There's a dynamic about that. Just go left and see what happens. It's a process of cultivating like any other relationship. And you give me ideas and suggestions on what I can do to set the tone to do that. Sit in a lotus flower, burn some incense, go hiking, go to the ocean, set up a sacred space, do painting. Those are things to set the tone or the venue or the energy that on a conscious level, right? It helps me to be aware of what I'm actually doing. But ultimately, people talk about this place of nirvana. What we want to ultimately come to is that I can do it at any given place, at any given time, at any given moment. Meaning I don't have to have this dialogue with God when I get home and sit in my sacred space and light up some sage and burn some incense and sit in a lotus position. I want to be able to do it when I'm talking to you. I want to hear that. We do it in 12. It's so interesting that the answer to 11 is in 12. Because if I keep cleaning house, right? I keep cleaning house and I'm having this relationship with this power to cultivate me. and to get rid of anything that blocks me, I'm actually going to witness what happens in 12 because I become other-centered. I'll become more intuitive. We can see it when we're working with others. We start hearing things about them. We almost all become psychic. We become Cleos, believe it or not. Y'all don't realize that we all become psychic. You ever sat around some old timers? They're psychic. Y'all never notice that? Old timers they're psychic. They will tell you things and you be wondering. It's like you just got a reading. I swear. You be like, how do you know that? They'll come out and say some stuff. You be like, We think it's because what do they have that saying? You see it, you got it, you spot it, you got it. That's part of it. But a lot of it is they're listening. They're listening. I want to cultivate that in 11. That will help me to stay here. Every single one of these steps is done through the propeller, through the energy of the movement of solidifying my sobriety. If I want to maintain a long-term relationship with someone, I would think that it would behoove me to show up, be constant, consistent, focused, intended, so that I can have a long-term relationship. If I'm neglectful, not mindful, inconsiderate, don't do anything to spend time with it, what am I going to get? I'm not really going to have a relationship with it. And so if I don't want to have a relationship with God, if any of you are new, if you really, really don't want to have one, or new or old or been here for a while, then don't do it. It's not like it's real simple. Just don't do it. And have a relationship with yourself and other things and see how long that works. I tried that. And it left me miserable, unhappy, depressed, self-pity, a lot of anxiousness and worry. And they talk about it in 11. I don't want to pull up because my time is running out in a minute. But in 11, it actually gives me the compass. I call it a compass. It tells me I am less likely, if I do this, I am less likely to be in worry, anxiety. You know what I mean? So to me, that's my compass. So when I'm really worried and I have a lot of anxiety, right, and I'm feeling, sadness, and then I'm like, oh, I'm off. I go, I'm off. I'm not in alignment. You know what I mean? I'm not in alignment with God. So I reach for tools sometimes to help me to get in alignment. Sponsorship, fellowship. There are times I don't see it. I don't feel it. So I turn to you. I love how Cyndi talked about transparency. We're as sick as our secrets. Let me tell you what's going on. Pick up a pen and paper. I love it how Cyndi talked about people have a thing about the 12 and 12. Well, look, we all know the program is outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But what I do know in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is a page of all the books that they suggest we read. I don't know. I'm just saying. And so I get all those books. I don't know about you, but I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. I want to know what books they read. You know what I'm saying? I want to know what kind of books they referring to. So the 12 and 12 I refer to, builds as he sees it, whatever they have in there, I'm going to refer to it. And then step 11, they told me to go to a library or a bookstore. Go to religious people. What is that doing? It keeps me seeking. It allows me not to rest on my laurels and get cocky and think I've arrived. It allows me to stay in a place of not knowing. My dad would always say the same man who leaves his house in the morning is not the same man who comes home at night. What I did yesterday is not going to do anything for me today, and what I'm going to do tomorrow is not going to do anything for me today. A diabetic needs insulin every day. We need nutrition every day. Some people say step 11 is like our nutrition. It's our spiritual food. And sometimes I do go without eating. And sometimes I do some fasting. And when I go without eating and I do fasting, I get a little lightheaded. I'm off. And then what's the remedy to that? Eat something. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, there have times I've been off my game, man. I'm irritated. I'm frustrated. I don't know what's going on. I'm just bitching about everything and da-da-da-da. And then somebody like, what didn't you do today? I was like, ooh, I didn't pray and meditate. Give me a second. Get back in alignment. You never took your car to get alignment? You know what I mean? The wheel is off, right? I've heard people share that. You're driving, you want to keep going straight, but you keep going off. What do? I go get in alignment. 11 is to keep me in alignment, to keep my business successful. You introduced that to me in 4. No business can hardly be a success if it doesn't take stock. And no business could be a success if I'm not talking to my employees or my employer, my board of directors. I am no longer an island by myself. Step 11 allows me to be amongst the land of the living. It reminds me to get right-sized. It reminds me that I'm not running the show. It reminds me, if I take a look, that I keep thinking I am in charge. And when I do think I'm getting in charge, it don't work. That's what it's doing for me. And this is not an overnight matter, folks. I've been practicing this for the best of my ability for the last 31 years. There are times I've grown, man. I've been, so in alignment with God, man. I'm floating, yo. I am floating. And then there are times I'm in a fetal position and I'm wondering what the hell is going on. It is dark. Those are those dark days. And because my feet are trained, I still keep doing it anyway. I get to go into 11 prayer meditation. It's not always roses. Sometimes I don't go into prayer meditation and be like, oh, loving God, thank you so much for all that you are. And let me feel the presence of your light. I go in there sometimes and be like, this, thank you. I be in there going, this some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Wait a second. Hold up in here. I've been very obedient, okay? I've been obedient. I've been listening. I don't know what's happening. You need to help me. You need to give me guidance. Send somebody to me. Give me a name. Give me a name. Give me a name. I don't believe in you. I don't trust you right now. I don't trust what's going on in my world right now. You're going to have to send me somebody who knows you, who loves you, and believes in you, because our relationship ain't working. You ain't never did that with somebody? I don't want to talk to you right now. And I believe that God be like, okay. And he'll send me somebody like Cyndi. And I'll just hold on to that and I'll just listen to her. Because she's in alignment. And I just do whatever it is she says. But it's practice, practice, practice. If I ain't used to doing it, when my ass falls off, I won't turn to it. So I've done the uncomfortable until it became comfortable. There are tons of methods. We can always talk about that, of prayer, meditation, and so many people want to know what those things are. To me, the whole thing about it is seeking, trying, seeking, learning, and just being willing. And the way they wrote it in the book is very simple. I tell some sponsees, I find it interesting that you want to learn all these religious dynamics and all these rituals and practices and read all these books and do all these things, and you want to seek out meditation, which is great. But can you even just in the morning ask God what your plans are for the day? It's like, you can't even do that when you want to go into a state of nirvana. I just think that's funny. Anyway, and at night you're not willing to go and review, and then it's just funny. But you want to go and do what? You want to be Buddha? Anyway, start there. Keep it really, really simple. If you're new and you haven't gotten to 11, it's okay. I hope that we made it interesting enough for you to be excited enough to get through steps 1 through 10 so you can have your own experience with 11. And then you can come back and tell us the dynamics of your relationship with God, because I'm always interested to hear what that's like. Each and every relationship is unique and it's special and it's personal. So thank you for allowing me to share, and I'm excited for the Q&A. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Bobby from Detroit, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much, Cyndi. Oh my God, I loved you. And Theresa, you're always good. Theresa, I think you're like the perfect pair to any speaker that we've had. Every speaker's been so good, and then you just come in with. And I love the fact that you have two speakers because you don't have to all hit every point. You know, you kind of fill in the blanks. And perfect pairing tonight. Cyndi, I loved you, and I'm looking forward to you coming to Detroit next month with Don M., who's coming into town. Looking forward to that convention. So I loved how you started off with your sick is your secrets, and that it is about transparency. A couple of the notes that I wrote down, I love the worry, the anxiety being our compass. But one of the things, a question both for Cyndi and for Theresa, you talked about to meditate without being goal driven. How in the heck do you do that? I struggle with that. And then Theresa, you were talking about the symphony of noise when you're meditating. You can just meld all the noise into your meditation. Cyndi, how do you do that? And Theresa, if you could talk about that real briefly, I'd appreciate it. Thank you both.
Well, that's why I have to, for me, like play my flute. It used to be guitar, but I used to be my motorcycle before that. But I had to do something that gets me to hear so that I can meditate. So as long as my energy is here, it's about me because it's from my head. And so if I can just, like for me right now, the flute just brings my energy down. It's breath. It's connected with God. And that lets me then be able to just be still and listen and get to the listening device. And, my first meditation tool was my Harley Davidson because it vibrated more than I did. And it was way louder than all that crap in my head. And so then I could get, I could hear God in the wind. And so all I got to do is want to meet God and God will show up. I don't know if that's helpful. But.
Yeah, I was, yes, thank you. I was going to say, I do the same thing. I try not to do with an agenda. It tells me what the agenda is, God's will for me. Just show me what it is. But the noise that I talk about, through the process of meditation itself, if I look at the definition, it's deep thought. Meditation's definition isn't going to blankness. So what I'm actually doing is I'm watching my thoughts. So that's why I like the way they wrote it and the way they have it in the big book, because you ask yourself questions. It gives my thoughts something to do, right? But I begin to listen to all the noise. I'm going to hear my thoughts. I'm going to hear noise from outside. A lot of times, there's a joke, right? People want to go into meditation and you hear noise and you think it's broken up your meditation. You know what I mean? I'm going to meditate. And then you hear a dog barking, like, oh, I messed up my meditation. But really, I learned to just let the dog bark, let the horns blow, let whatever comment, let it happen. I think my cousin was on our Step 11 workshop, and I like how she said, the clouds are our thoughts. So it's like I just let them go, and I let the noise go. And after a while, it does become one note. I don't know how to explain that other than that's an experience, because everything is one. Everything is one. Our perception and the way we see life is multiple particles and things, but in actuality, everything is one. And so if I allow all things to just be as they are, eventually they do come into one note, one sound. You can even look at that scientifically. I don't know how to explain that, but it does become one. And so I stopped trying to go, like Cyndi was saying, with a goal, right? I want to reach a place of da-da-da-da. I just let be what is and then see what happens. It becomes one note. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know if that helped.
Thank you, Bob, for your question. Maria S., come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Maria and I'm an alcoholic. I just want to thank you. I'm from Pennsylvania. This is my first time here. I was invited and I am so delighted to have heard you, Cyndi and Theresa. I am just blown away. You knocked it out of the park. And I have been meditating. I love that you both have like a different concept about meditating because I've, thought that I need to silence my mind. And I'm just so thrilled and I just want to seek that. And I want to practice, allow that to happen to me. And I trust that allowing the noise will eventually become one note. That is so beautiful. That just blows me away. I'm just like, I feel like now I never believe in arriving anywhere, but I feel like I leveled up just a little bit. And I just thank you. I thank you for the nuggets. It's just beautiful. Thank you. That's all I have.
I was laughing. I didn't realize I was laughing. I wasn't muted. I will say this. Interesting enough, there's some idea that we have, and I've had to let go of a lot of old ideas of religion, of what meditation, through the constant work of inventorying. I've had to let go of certain principles, concepts of what spirituality is, of what my connection to God is, because some of those old ideas will get in the way of my meditation process. It has to look this way, right? It has to be this way. I also try not to be fixed, like I'm going to do it like this all the time. I've done certain meditations and then, I don't know, then I do something else. So I've learned to be flexible. And what I've discovered overall, the more spiritual development I do in this relationship with God, the more grounded I become, the more things I learn about myself that need some work, and the funnier I become. Do you know what I mean? I stop taking myself so serious. So the more earthbound, I don't know how to, it's very interesting. The more spiritual I think I'm trying to grow, the more earthbound I become. It's a very interesting dynamic. Anyway, if Cyndi's got anything else on that, but I become more like, yeah, whatever.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Theresa, for the comment. Just a reminder, we're looking for questions, please. I'm afraid to call the next person up, but I guess I have to. He has his hand up. Chris, come on up, please.
You might want to stop the recording, right, Ali? Hi, everyone. Chris, recovered alcoholic. And yes, I do have one of those questions. Hi, Theresa. Cyndi, thank you for your share. I look at this program because I have some time from the standpoint of a newcomer coming in and hearing these things. And so my question is going to be, for example, I'm new, just to say, and I hear somebody say, Chris, pause when agitated. Well, since I've done my steps now, I realized that when I paused and when I was agitated, I would just masturbate and break things. I mean, that's why you probably should have stopped the recording. No, but I'm serious. That's my sex inventory, right? I realized that when I paused when agitated, I didn't have a solution. Could you please, my question is, could you please explain to me a little bit more what I can do when I heard the suggestion, just pause when agitated? Thank you.
I can tell you that that's been quite a journey for me. It's the 10-step instruction, right? So for me, first of all, I want to give a shout out to all of the men here. I've been sober a long time, and I've been to so many events that is all men talking and lots of women listening. This is the first time that I've been to an event that's all women talking and men are still coming and showing up. And that's pretty darn cool. and real refreshing for this old broad. But for me, I used to, because I didn't have a pause. I was all reactive. So what to do when I paused was like not even on the radar. It was just, how the hell do I slow down enough that I just don't punch in and punch you? You know what I mean? It's like, how when you make me mad, how do I not react in this, like, you know, aggressive way? And so where it ties in with the 11th step is in the morning, the one thing I did pray for specifically, because it tells me I need one in the 10th step, is, God, please give me a pause button today. Please. I mean, I have begged for it. Please give me a pause button. Because if I can be focused enough on God to pause, then I'm connected enough with God to know what's next. My problem is that I was never connected enough with God to be able to pause. But if I can pause, God's in charge. Because if I'm in charge, there's no pausing. I am letting you know how aggravated I am. And I am reacting to that agitation. So for me, the gift is just to step back. I didn't need to do anything with it at all. I need to turn my thoughts to God, and what he would have me do and be is what it says in the 10th step to do next. You know, and that's what I need to do, and look to, who can I help? Who can I help? And can I tell somebody right away what's going on and how I'm feeling so that I don't continue to react? That's kind of what the overarching instructions tell me. And I find that if I do that, everything works out just fine. I just got to pause. That's it.
That's right. We got to get to the pause first. I was very visual. So I think about, you know, when I'm watching a television program and I press pause, I don't remember pressing pause on the TV unless I really need a minute to take in, like Stephen King's movies sometimes trip me out. I just need to stop it for a second so I can get my brain together. But for the most part, whenever I press pause on something, I usually go do something. So I always associated the pause also with an action, meaning I just don't stop. Like, I'm not just pausing. I go do something. And the invitation that it gives me is to inventories. Kind of, I'm pausing. I need a minute. What I call it is give me a minute. I just need a minute. And then I want to kind of take a look and see where I'm being selfish and self-seeking and dishonest. I do a whole inventory process in the pause. I look at, what is this affecting in me? And then I pray. And then I look at where I'm at fault. And I don't press play until I've run that through a series, because the likelihood of by the time I press play after doing that, I won't punch you in the face. And I've just noticed that when I don't press the pause and do that, what comes out of my mouth is not nice. And I usually end up hurting myself or others. But when I do that and I clean house and I ask God to remove, how can I be useful? Then I press play. And then I watch God show off and show out. That's in 10. But I have to build a relationship in 11 so I can trust that process. I have to keep trusting that process. So.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Theresa and Cyndi. I thought Brenda Free had her hand up. Did it go down by accident, Brenda?
It kind of did, and then it kind of didn't. I'm Brenda, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, guys. Good to be here. No, I think I'm having an epiphany. That's why I put it down. But the whole concept of asking what I need to do, I've got this premeditated. I've already have a thing. I'll do anything except for these 3 things. Like, I'm good. Like, how do you want me to show up in my day? How do you want me to be in a relationship with my mom? That's the topic that I'm trying to avoid saying right now. So how do you, she's 90, she's a pain in the ass, blah, blah, all that stuff. So how do you want me to show up in this? And I'm spending time and time and time. And so I think I'm getting the answer that what I really need to do is spend more time to let it go deeper, because I've already got my answer. I'll do everything except for spend more time and energy with her. So I've already got that won't work. So I've already got it figured out, but I'll do anything else. So, and I think that's that part that I'm just not aware that I'm doing that, because I think this is right. Correct me if I need some more guidance here, but I'm not spending enough time. I'm not letting the time get quiet enough. Is that because I'm not getting past that part, like, okay, I'm open. But if you were to say, help her out more, not really going to hear that. And so I think I'm not letting enough time go by. Teresa's laughing, so I think I'm probably on the money. What do you say? How can you help with that one?
For me, it's the same as any dishonest relationship. If I am attracted to somebody and I hate country music and they pull up in a pickup truck, listen to country music, and I say, oh, damn, do I love Garth Brooks, you know? And we start dating because I love Garth Brooks and they're listening to Garth Brooks. And then 3 months later, I'm like, why the hell do I have to listen to Garth Brooks? You know, I don't like country music, because when I go to God the way you're talking about, I'm not really interested in what God has to say. I'm lying. I didn't care what you have to say. If it's not what I want to hear, I didn't want to hear it. I'm not trusting that what God will give me will ultimately be better for me than what I have in mind for me. And when that's where I am, that's what I mean by getting rid of my goals, my agenda. And for me, I've got to bring my energy to here to do that. And so once I get my energy to here and I've really connected with God, then whatever God has to tell me, I can hear. That's just my experience. I'm sure Teresa's got something.
No, I agree. I remember telling a sponsee once, I'm like, isn't it interesting that every time I consider talking to God or asking God for guidance or help or what God will have me be and do, immediately I go to something really negative. And I needed to inventory that too. That's my old ideas of God. And it's an opportunity. This seeking journey is an opportunity to continuously uncover, discover, and discard. I look at all of it as an opportunity to do that. Many times, even what I'm asking for, it's interesting. Prayer, ever say that? Watch what you pray for. All of the steps are interesting. I say, God, please remove my defects of character. Well, how in the heck do you think that's supposed to happen? Well, they become 3D and they become more magnified, and I become more and more entirely ready for them to be removed. I ask for God for patience, tolerance, understanding, compassion. Well, how in the heck do you think that's supposed to happen? Then I stop asking for that because I keep getting situations that require that I be patient. And so many times I've had to look at my relationship with this power. And as I change, so does the God of my understanding needs to change. Just like any relationship. I've been in the same relationship for 31 years. Kim and I met when I was 24. She was 24. She had 30 days sober. I had 1 day sober. Okay? I'm not that 24-year-old girl. You know what I'm saying? We've changed in 31 years. There are times that she thinks I love this flavor. I don't eat that anymore. That was yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So my relationship with God is also changing as my perception changes, as I understand things change. I'm no longer that little girl saying, please, please fix me, save me, and change the world from causing me harm. And so I've just given myself permission to cultivate that relationship with God as well. And I've given myself permission to ask myself certain questions. Why is it that every time I'm willing to let go and let God, I believe that God is not going to give me what I want. And he's going to give me the opposite and make me do something that's going to make me painful and unhappy. I need to take a look at that so that I can build a better relationship with that power. Does that make sense? I have to look at that because that's some old stuff I'm dealing with. I'll say this real quick. Ultimately, my goal of, if we talk about a goal or intention of 11 is to improve my conscious contact with God. And that's going to require uncovering, discovering, and discarding. And then also what it's going to require is that eventually I'm now going to be willing to walk hand in hand and be guided with this power and know that this power does love me unconditionally, just as much as it loves you. To know that this power has every intention to do everything for my highest good and your highest good, just as much as I feel that way about my nephews. I use them as an example because when they call and they ask me for guidance, they ask me for direction, is because they know that I have their highest intention, right? For their well-being. Just like when I called my dad for guidance, I knew that he loved me. He wasn't going to steer me wrong. Whatever direction he gave me was going to be for the highest good of me and everyone else involved. And that's the relationship I wanted to have with God, that God loves me. And God is not going to tell me to turn left to run me over by a car. And if I get run over by a car, it's not because God wanted to teach me something. It was because somebody was driving and not paying attention to the light. So, and that was one of God's children. And God was like, I was trying to tell them to pay attention to the light, but they weren't listening to me. And that's one of my children too. And I don't know what to do with all y'all because I created you that way. So.
Thank you, Brenda. Miss LP, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Allie. Thank you so much, Cyndi and Theresa. I'm a bit overwhelmed right now, and my questions have been coming and going as other people have been talking. I'm 46 years sober. I had ran with the my spiritual advisor passed away, and he had been doing a God as I Understand It meeting for probably I'm going to say 20 years. And after he passed away, it was put in my hands. And my sobriety is kind of like a little bit different journey than a lot of people I hear, but I'm so grateful for Zoom because I've learned so much that I'm not unique in that either. But my question, I guess, would be, when it says, I'm seeking through prayer and meditation, my idea of meditation was messed up. It was always that busy brain Michelle can't meditate, and I love Theresa, you kind of chunking that down to saying, let the noise in. The other piece of it is prayer. And, a lot of times, and out of goodness of their hearts and well-meaning people say things that I, especially back in the early days, took very literally and had a really hard time following. I always believe that God honors my prayers no matter how I say them, where I say them, when I say them. So I guess I don't know what my question is because it's coming and going. I mean, this is the way it's been. I've been listening to you ladies for several weeks now, and I'm just overwhelmed half the time. I have to actually decompress after these meetings, but in prayer, I've only ever asked for God's will to be done and for me to be of service to others. That's my prayer, and it's been my prayer for 30 some years, I think. Does it need to be more? Thank you.
I'll quickly say if that's the prayer that's working for you, no. If the prayer isn't, and there's a nudge that says maybe there's more, then I learned some more prayers. I thank God that this is a spiritual program of action, not a cookie cutter program. I had a sponsee once call me and say, you know what, I believe God's going to strike me down and burn me in hell. Yes, she said, I'm going to be struck by lightning and I'm going to burn in hell. What do you think? I said, you're going to be struck by lightning and you're going to burn in hell. And she was like, what? I was like, who am I to tell you what kind of relationship you have with God? Some people make decisions based on that. I have had prayers where I said, thy will, not mine, be done. What will you have me be? And then I had prayers where I had a long list where I demanded a lot of things that I think I needed to have and do. And I believe both of those prayers were necessary and significant, and they were relative. How would I learn unless I asked my laundry list? You know what I mean? And then ultimately get to the simplicity of, you know what? I don't even know. What are we doing today? And I don't even know how long that's going to last. I will say this real quick. One of the areas that I struggle with the most, and we have it in the promises, is financial fear of people, and financial insecurity will leave us. Fear of people have gotten better, but I was stuck on financial insecurity. So if anything, I would pray to God, or my prayer was always financial security. Like, I want to pay the rent. You know what I mean? I want to have food. I want the lights, you know, because that's an energy that we operate off in this dimension. Money is energy. And about 95% of the decisions are made based on money. People say money doesn't buy you happiness. I don't know where you're living unless you go to another planet, but you can't function in this dimension without it. I get what they're saying. And so my prayer with God would always be like, help me pay the rent, help me find the money. You know what I mean? I am asking. And I needed to go through that. I needed to go through that to eventually saying, I trust that all those things will be met. Thy will, not mine, be done. But when I'm financially insecure and the landlord's about to knock on the door in a minute, it's kind of hard for me to say thy will, not mine, be done, because I don't want to be homeless. So that's my piece on that. I just don't beat myself up anymore about trying to do things right or wrong. I think that's where I've just gotten to. I'm like, just as long as I'm doing it, as opposed to not doing it at all.
I agree with Theresa. I have added some things, like when I'm lost, there's a prayer by Thomas Merton that really is saying nothing more than what you're saying, but you know, it's really just like, God, I don't know what'll please you, but I have to believe that my intention to please you will please you. And I just bastardized the hell out of that prayer. And but that's a short version of it. And so I have little tools that help me feel more connected in prayer. I mean, the 12 and 12 says that prayer is really just lifting our hearts up to God. That's, you know, we're lifting our hearts up to God. And I agree with Theresa that as long as we're doing something, we're good, you know. But for me, when I feel inadequate, sometimes it helps me to go open some of those books on my shelf and, you know, say a prayer out of one of them. And that's been very helpful to me.